Sure. See, it says that we're live, so let me just double check and make sure that we're live. And okay, here we go. Okay, I think we're live. Welcome everybody. We have this new kind of show that I'm testing out with you for the first time. And at the moment, I'm calling it Interview with a Polyglot, for lack of a better term. If anybody has any better suggestions, I'd like to hear it. But what I'm doing, in the language learning community, it's really interesting because you get to meet people who know several languages, many languages, and I'm just going to go on here for now to, save from distraction, but you get to meet a lot of interesting people. Today, we have Diana. She's from Romania. And as she said, she has always lived in Romania. She's always been from Romania. And she speaks up to 6 languages. Why do I say up to 6 languages? Well, because, she'll tell you in a while. But essentially, it comes down to depending on the level, right? Because it's not just this magical formula like you can draw or you can't draw. Well, how well can you draw, right? It's this sliding scale. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to ask Diana about her journey, and you can follow along. You can take some tips in your English learning journey, because most people following my channel are English learners from different levels, and hopefully you can take something of value. So thank you, Diana, for joining us.
Hello, Jesse. I'm very excited to be here, and I also thank you for the invitation to be here.
Thank you for being the first victim.
I didn't know I was the first victim.
Yeah, you are the first victim. So, first of all, you're in Romania, as you said, and you've always been in Romania. Have you traveled outside, or?
I have traveled in European countries, not very far from Romania, but just for vacation. So I never lived in a different country, and I've never been outside of Europe.
Okay, interesting. Nice. What was your favorite place inside of Europe to visit?
Well, there are 2 actually, but most of all, my eternal love is Greece. So
okay.
I love the country, the culture, the places, the language, everything to do with it. And also Switzerland was amazing because it's very green, very quiet, and I love the quiet.
Awesome. Those are 2 places I'd love to visit, Switzerland and Greece, both. Yeah. It seems beautiful. So, where would you like to go outside of Europe if you could choose one place to go first after COVID finishes?
First, I have to say the US, because I feel like it's a culture that's sort of everywhere, so I feel very familiar with it. The place that I would love to travel to is Japan, but it's a very different culture, so maybe I'll try to something a little bit more familiar before that.
Yeah. Or you could just jump right into it. Rich, I used to live in South Korea, so I actually have been to Japan. I haven't been to Italy or Greece or Switzerland, but I've been to Japan. It's really beautiful. Mm-hmm. So, how many languages do you speak? I guess we'll start there.
Well, it's always a challenge for me to answer this question because, as you said, it's about the level where you consider you speak a language. And also, do you mean like, can I speak or do I speak? Because, well, I'll tell you my story and then you'll understand. So my mother tongue is Romanian, of course, and I speak English, as you can see. I am advanced in Spanish, though I feel odd saying that, but well, I have a paper that says that.
Those papers, those
Yeah.
coveted papers that people are looking to get. Yeah.
But the thing is that I can get by reasonably well in Spanish in whatever circumstances that I'm familiar with. Like, for example, I'm no good, say, at chemistry. I couldn't discuss chemistry in Romanian, let alone in Spanish. But, the things that come up in my life, I can do them in Spanish. Then I speak Portuguese. I don't use it often nowadays, but I speak it. I write in it. Um, it. It was tricky to learn because it's so similar to Spanish, which I've been studying since I was a kid. So I always had Spanish to fall back on, and that helped. But that also means that when speaking Portuguese, I often make mistakes. I speak Spanchugese, or I don't know what it is.
Spanish. Yeah.
Yeah, and yeah, that's an interesting one. I know French. I studied French only at school for 11 years, so that's a very long time. I obviously know French, maybe at an intermediate level, but I never speak it. Never speak it, ever, ever.
So it
And
is challenging to speak languages similar to each other, but it ultimately has to help you, right? Spanish has helped you more with Portuguese. How about with
yes,
French?
well, I started studying French when I was 8, so I didn't really have much to fall back on at the time. Um, no, not really. For me, French is an island, the French language. I mean, it's
Yeah, it is
yeah,
quite different, isn't it?
and the opposite is my Greek. So I've been studying Greek for 2.5 years, maybe a little more than that. I try to do a little something to learn it every day. I use it every day, so I read in it, I speak in it, but I'm not so advanced at all. So I'm a lower intermediate level, if that. So
That's
can I say I
interesting.
speak French? Can I say I speak Greek?
That's
That's my journey.
spoken like a true polyglot. I think someone that doesn't speak many languages is, would say, "Yeah, I can say hola." I speak Spanish. So you say you speak Greek every day. Like, do you force yourself just out of fun? Is it a hobby? Like, do you have Greek people that you know? Tell me more about that.
Well, it's a passion. Like, okay, so I went to Greece, but I didn't need Greek because I speak English. So I could have got by, but I don't know. I said, let's try. And I didn't know if after the one first vacation I would go back. I did. I didn't know if I would continue to study this language, but I was like, what the hell. And I couldn't imagine how Greek is supposed to sound. Like a sentence, a simple sentence. But I kept at it, and now I can use it. I can say things in it. I can understand someone speaking not very quickly.
Yeah, yeah,
um, and
awesome.
so, yeah, I have a friend, a Greek friend, who is also studying Romanian, and we help each other. Um,
Awesome. Like a language exchange.
yes, it is a language exchange.
How did
And
if I
yeah,
can interrupt, sorry, I'm not an interviewer, so like things just come to the top of my head. So a lot of people wish that they could find a language partner in English. How did you find a language partner in Greek?
um, so I was in this Greek language group. That was many months ago, so I may not be exactly correct. Um, but I think it was such a question: how many languages do you speak? And I gave an answer similar to what I just told you now. except my level in Greek back then was much, much lower. Well, like A2 lower, but still, it felt much lower.
Yeah.
And so this guy that I didn't know says, "Oh, I'm learning Romanian." Uh, and for me, that was weird because people generally don't try to study Romanian. And so I don't even remember how it happened, but we got talking. He offered help, and then I offered help with Romanian. And then I had this idea, we could do like an exchange over Skype, and we're doing that every week,
Oh yeah. So you have a set schedule, right?
pretty much.
Yeah. Okay. Have you made that arrangement with any other languages?
So I have a friend from Brazil who contacted me because he wanted help studying Romanian. And then I was like, okay, but I'm also studying Portuguese. And after a few weeks of chatting, I started only writing in Portuguese because he first approached me in English. Um, but we don't have such a strict schedule. We sometimes talk on the weekend. Actually, we haven't talked in a while, but yeah,
But
it
you
happens.
had it. Interesting. Interesting. Is there any tips that you would give to anyone who might be nervous reaching out to somebody? How would you go about starting that conversation if you were to want to improve your English?
First thought that popped into my head was actually that you have something to offer. You obviously speak
Great.
at least one language. And I've read messages from people who are like, people don't learn my language. And I also felt that way about Romanian, but actually people do. And some people are actually much more interested in languages that are rare, that are not so
Mm,
widely spoken.
yeah, like
So,
Greek.
yeah, well, maybe even less than Greek.
Yeah,
So
sure.
don't discount what you have to offer. You can go and offer that. But in my experience, now that you mentioned it, Jesse, when I asked for a language exchange, I didn't get it. So it
That
usually happens at random, really. So,
very nice. Okay, that's a really good point. Because sometimes if people are looking for language exchanges, you know, I can see how people would be hesitant because sometimes it could be looking for a date or looking for, whatever, anything else, you never know. So yeah, just maybe I guess keep an open mind, keep open eyes if the situation pops up, right?
yeah, and be open. Like I've been very active on polyglot groups, just chatting. I became a member of many Facebook groups that help to teach the languages that I want to learn. So
Mm,
that helps.
absolutely. Awesome. Awesome. What made you interested to start learning languages? Like,
It
was it
just sort
something
of
that you've
happened.
always, okay.
Yeah, so the thing is that in my country, it's kind of mandatory. Actually, I
Sure.
think it's really mandatory to study at least two languages in school,
Okay.
up until high school, including high school. But I didn't start out with a passion. Like my first contact with a foreign language was in kindergarten,
Sure.
and I was
English,
obviously
right?
not passionate.
Yeah,
Sorry?
for sure. That was English, right? Or is it two languages besides English? Or is English one of those?
English is one of those, or at least
Okay.
it was in my time.
Okay.
But it was the media, so songs I enjoyed, movies and series that I got really obsessed with that were in other languages. And to be honest,
Mm,
I was encouraged. So, like, teachers saw me speaking and they gave me good grades and they praised me. And so, yeah, encouragement from others matters. And I don't think that you learn a foreign language by yourself. You need other people, even if you do practice by yourself.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And encouragement. Speaking as a teacher, that's something that's really not, it's really overlooked sometimes in the
Mhm.
classroom, the power of encouragement. You know, like a lot of people that stick on rules and do this and do your homework, when really encouragement goes so far.
Yes, and I actually understood this when I went for a year to foreign language college. Yeah, it was college, but I didn't go full time. Uh, and it was for Spanish, which, as I said, I loved since I was a child. And then this thought popped up: what will the teachers be like? Because the person who teaches you teaches how to be in a relationship in that language. So for me, that
Mm.
was an aha moment. It was like, it's about relationship. Like the when the baby starts to make those sounds and and
Yeah,
then starts to speak because it interacts with the mother and with the other people who are present.
absolutely. And it's the same. I've really transitioned my mind in the classroom as a teacher, especially at the lower levels and younger learners like teenagers. My main goal is to have them have a good relationship with English. I'm not really focused on teaching them as I call them, the nuts and the bolts of the language. Right? My main goal, my first priority is give them a good relationship with the language. And then what they do after that, that's, kind of takes care of itself. So,
Mhm.
what do you do to stay motivated? Like in language, do you ever get not motivated? Because a lot of people, especially with English, I think
Mhm.
English, I've posted this in the group before too. I think English is kind of a unique animal because, like you said, a lot of people learn it from kindergarten. And there's that pressure. There are those exams. And it can kind of like the communication can get lost. How do you
Mhm.
stay motivated to learn the language?
Mhm. Well, it's obviously different as an adult, but I think what stays the same throughout life is you have to want it. You have to find something that you want, because if somebody else wants it, maybe you'll do it for a grade, but it's like with my French. It's not that I don't know it, but I'm never motivated to study it, even though I like it. It's a beautiful, beautiful language. But what I do is find content that fits my interests. And for example, so I studied Spanish out of pure passion. Again, I didn't need it. Um, and at some point, I thought, it's good to learn one more language, but that wasn't it. And recently, I actually took a professional course offered by an institute in Spain in my chosen profession, which is entirely another thing. I'm a psychotherapist,
Oh,
and
cool.
I would not have had that opportunity if I didn't know Spanish. So,
That, that's it. They can open up opportunities that you'd never see, right?
and people that you never meet. And I feel like every time I learn a new language, it's like it opens up the whole world, So
Mm,
I get to meet people that I otherwise would never have.
that's true. That's true. That's so important to know because there are so many hidden benefits of learning a language that you kind of just don't see, right? You
Mm,
you kind of take for granted because, you know, I always say, like, look past your English. I'm a fluency coach. I help like higher level speakers, but at that point, like getting better at English is not your main goal,
mm,
right? What's beyond that? What will that lead to? And I
mm,
think that helps us stay motivated. Something that a lot of people want is to be able to think in another language, to not translate directly. How do you handle that? How do you handle it at each level? We've talked earlier about different levels of learning, right? Basic communication to, full out fluency. Like, at what point do you find yourself thinking directly in another language? And do you have any tips?
Actually, I've noticed something interesting because I can actually think in a new language if I really want to, like I want to think in Greek. I don't have enough vocabulary, but I can make myself so I think directly. I don't know how it happens. I just think, okay, so now it's Greek time. I don't think in English, I don't think in Romanian, I think in Greek. But since I lack vocabulary, I noticed that if a word needs to come up that I don't know in Greek, it will come up, I don't know, in English, for example, or in Spanish, or whatever other language. I don't know why that happens. So a tip that I found useful was to just, you look around and you see an object. I don't know, you see this phone, right? And you want to learn Spanish and you just see it and you don't say phone, you say telephone. Maybe you don't know the word, maybe you can't do that, so then you write it down and you say, okay, so I'll look this up. And then you repeat the word, you learn it, you memorize it, and then when you see a telephone, it be like telefono, not phone. You don't know phone, you don't know other languages. And if you do that enough times, or if you just try to speak without thinking, and you notice that this helps you to notice if maybe you're not prepared to do that. And what difficulties do you encounter when you try to do that?
That's really great. That's really great. I kind of have the same idea. Do what you can to think directly. If you can take out the translation part of the learning process, do that. Think of the word like derretir in Spanish, to melt. Don't look at the word melt, skip the middleman. You can just draw on a piece of paper an ice cube that's melting, or whatever. Another thing that I tell my clients and students, and you tell me if this is correct in your experience, is you're already doing it a lot more than you realize. You're already thinking directly and not translating as much as you think you are. Because I think a lot of people, they think they're translating, but they're really not, because they're thinking of the images. They're thinking of a glass of water. They're not thinking of it in their language and then translating it. So I think it's really encouraging to realize you already are doing that. So just accept it and learn from that.
Yes, I think it's very important to recognize a sort of, I don't know, to get good at the meta process of learning, so to know your mind and to realize what language it is that you're thinking in, if you're thinking or feeling, or this helps you to be more aware, and that will help you to actually know where you need to improve and where you're already there, because you are thinking more than you think you're thinking.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. You're thinking more than you think you're thinking. You are, right? And we've kind of mentioned this in the chat before, and it's something that I think is a superpower of learning another language that people don't really tap into. That learning a new language is an opportunity to be a new you, right? It's an opportunity to create the person that you want to become. Tell me a little bit about your experience, and in different languages, what are you like in some of your different languages that you've learned?
Yes, for me, English is the most powerful example. And I felt that when I was a teen and I really started improving my English, I had a chance to be who I wanted to be and not who I was told that I was, because
Oh, can you say that again? Can you? That was powerful. Say that again, if you can remember.
yeah. So improving my English in my teen years gave me the chance to be who I wanted to be, not whom I was told that I was by my parents in Romanian.
Yeah.
So we all have these labels that are attached. I don't know, I'm shy, I'm lazy, I'm not good enough. But you learn another language and you get to be a more authentic you, maybe, if it suits you.
Yeah. Yeah. You
Yeah.
can be more powerful, more direct, more confident, more outgoing. If you're already outgoing, you don't want to be. You can be more timid. It's
Yes,
completely up to you.
and it has to do with a lot of things, like I'm thinking even the culture. So I lean toward American English, which is bolder probably than British English, where they're so polite, like please do that and please,
Yeah. Yeah.
and thank
Uh,
you a lot. And I'm actually a lot bolder in English than I am in Romanian.
I am in Spanish too. Um, and I think that's I mean, I am more in Spanish than I am in English. And I actually learned a lot about being bold and being direct from my Spanish personality, if that makes sense. Not to say that I'm completely crazy, just a little bit, but
No
I've
flaw.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, I learned a lot about being confident. I learned a lot from my Spanish personality, and then the Korean is a lot different even yet because I was more reserved because the culture there, you're kind of more reserved. It's kind of a more reserved culture, and I wanted to take that, as I'm speaking their language.
Yes, yes, that's really fascinating. And I think that you can build that awareness that I was talking about. Well, I am a therapist after all.
Great.
And so if you get to know yourself, a different you in a different language, you can look at yourself, what do I do different in that language? And then take it back into your own languages or language, and play with it. And even code switching can be helpful sometimes if you're not ready to take all the parts of yourself into your mother tongue.
Can you say that again? What was that?
Sorry.
Code? What was that? Code switching?
Yes, do I need to explain it? Sorry.
I think so. I mean, I don't know if listeners would know what that is, but I don't know. So explain it to me.
Yeah, actually I heard that term from, oof, I have no idea how the name is pronounced. The It's written Dewale. I have no idea how it's read.
Yeah, I don't know either. Diwali?
The Wali, yeah, I think you're right.
Maybe.
And yeah, very interesting book about language acquisition and emotion for my dissertation thesis. And he talked about code switching, which is basically switching between the languages that you speak. So I'm speaking in English now. English is a code, a language, right? So if now I suddenly say a word in Romanian or a half a sentence in Romanian, that will be code switching.
So it kind of is this?
Yes.
Interesting. Okay. So it's kind of that, like changing personalities depending on which language you're speaking. Like
It
based on
didn't say
culture,
anything
based
about
on.
personalities. Actually,
Oh,
I think it's just about languages, and then they study whether you actually change personalities or the content of what you say when you code switch. But code switching, in my understanding, and I may be wrong here, but it's just switching the language. Like, for example, in Romania, we do that a lot with English, actually. So
mhm.
we may start a sentence in Romanian and go on in English.
And yeah, yeah. I think they do that sometimes in India too. because
Oh.
English is very prevalent there. So that's interesting. I noticed that I have two kids, one 3 years old and one 5 years old, and they're fully bilingual. Their mother's Spanish. We're living in Spain. I'm the English part, and they're fully bilingual. But it's amazing to see even their little personalities change with the language. So it's not something that's only present in our adult learning years, right? It's right from the beginning.
Right. Yes. Two mother languages, or well, father languages. I don't know if that exists. Um, it's very interesting because they already have that. Um, before they're even older children, and I have no idea what that's like.
Yeah,
Um,
that's
yeah,
it.
and it's
It's great to
interesting.
see.
Yeah, like what do you say to your children in English? What do you say to them in Spanish? Or who talks to them in English and who talks to them in Spanish? It's very fascinating for me. I know it's
Yeah,
very
there
fascinating,
are.
but it's
The,
really.
It is, right? And there are whole rabbit trails we can go down with that. There are different like beliefs and techniques and like one parent, one language and things like that. I found like in the earlier years, I was pretty strict about only speaking English and having the TV only in English because we're here in Spain. If we were living in the United States, I'd be kind of strict the other way about having everything in Spanish. But now that my daughter's like 5, like she communicates in English, and I'm a little more relaxed. And sometimes actually I'll start speaking in Spanish, like say little things in Spanish and let her correct me. So there's that too. So what is your biggest struggle, like speaking so many languages, but like in your journey, if you can remember some of the biggest struggles that might help somebody else at
Mm.
that spot, get over that?
Learning or using the languages.
Both.
Mm. Because as I was listening to you, what came up was I use some words from a language when talking in another language that I am using more often. Like, for example, and this is embarrassing, but I'll just say it. I have done quite some amount of volunteer work teaching English and Spanish to adults. And the thing is that if I was studying another language, which I was obviously, I'm always studying another language,
Yeah.
instead of saying the Spanish word, that never happened with English because I feel it very close to me. But instead of the Spanish word, I would say I don't know, the Portuguese word or the Greek word. And with Greek, it was odd because at one point I had already started learning Greek every single day. I wanted to say yes to a student, and I try to talk as much as I can in Spanish because it helps them to learn. And I wanted to say sí, but I said ne, which is yes in Greek, but in Spanish it sounds like no.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, I was very embarrassed. I don't
And in
even
Korean,
know.
it's yes.
Yes?
Nay
Ah,
is yes. That took some getting used to because in English too, when we say nay, it kind of means no, yay, and nay. So, but in Korean, it means yes.
yeah. In Romanian too, in French, Italian.
Yeah.
Yes.
Excellent. So, I'd like to know your biggest advice as we close. Your biggest advice to language learners on any scale, as they're learning, the floor is yours.
Yes. So it's two things actually. And one is immersion. So the thing that worked best for me to actually start, as you said, thinking in the language and to for these words to come up to me like that. I don't have to think. It's immersion. So if I don't travel, and I don't travel as much as I'd like, once I reach a certain level, like maybe an A2 or B1, I put all my accounts into my target language. So for the moment, my phone is in Greek, my email is in Greek, my what else? My Facebook is in Greek.
Awesome.
I've got even receipts in Greek from Facebook
Nice.
advertising. Yeah. So yeah, that is very, very important. When you can do it, do it. It will be difficult. Sometimes you won't know what you're doing. I've been there, but now my vocabulary is that much larger for it. And also courage. So
Mm.
you learn making errors, like when you're a little child. If
Yeah.
you want to speak perfectly, you will never speak at all. And yeah, basically, okay, maybe you make a fool of yourself. So what? You need to talk even if it's uncomfortable, even if, for example, you speak English as your native language and maybe it's easier to use that.
Mm.
Don't. So, for example, I spoke Greek after 3 weeks of Duolingo and nothing else in Greece, and it was
Nice.
awful. I ordered some pepper so hot that I thought I would die because I thought there was something else, but I still did, and now I'm much better. And I will never order that again.
Yeah, that I mean that's it, right? It was the same thing when I came here. I learned Spanish so much more in like the first 3 months, and probably I have since, in the last several years, just because like I had that courage. I wanted to learn, right?
Yes,
I didn't let pride get in my way. Now it's kind of like pride and like embarrassment because I've been here for a while and I should be better. Um, but that gets in
those
my way.
messages are something else that we need to get over, because it's never the should
Yeah,
know better. That puts
that's a
us
good
stuck
point.
right there.
That's a good point.
But
That's a very good point.
yeah, I just want to say, and I know, Jesse, that you've done this very successfully, I'm sure. But for other learners out there, don't just want to do that, because um, I know people who just want to do it, but don't actually speak in the language.
Mm,
And that's not enough. You need to speak in it, even if you feel like a 3-year-old. I did. I still do so.
absolutely. Absolutely. It's in business terms we call it taking imperfect action,
Yes, exactly.
you know. And that's the way to do anything. Just get out there and do it. And let your mistakes happen, learn from your mistakes, like realize that your mistakes aren't your identity. They don't identify
Exactly.
you.
Yes.
They're part of the process.
Yes, and somebody who makes a mistake is someone who is learning and who had the courage to do something.
Yeah, absolutely. Cool.
Great.
I think that's all. Thank you, Diana. This
Thank
was
you.
certainly a pleasure.
Yes, for me as well. Thank you.
Good. Thank you for reaching out. Thank you for having the courage to come out here and do this. And I'll see you online. I'll post a link to this in case you want to take a look at it later.
Sure. Thank you very much. And I will be watching your other interviews. I am very curious how they will turn out.
Me too. Thank you, Diana. Thank you so much.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you. And that was cool. That was cool. That was a cool conversation. That was a cool experience. One of many, I hope. If you guys like it, I liked it anyway, so I'm gonna do more of these anyway. But also, if you know anyone who speaks several languages and would like to come on here and have a conversation about it, I'd love to talk to them too. But besides that, if you are learning English, if you can speak well and something that we talked about resonated with you and you've identified with it and you just kind of are like, I do get stuck there. That does make sense. How do I do that? And you don't know how to go from point A, where you are maybe intermediate, maybe advanced, to actually becoming fluent. Book a call and let's talk. Let's chat. I will ask you a few questions, where you are, where you want to go, what you need English for, and then we'll create a study plan, whether it is to work together in a coaching way, whether it's to join the membership at Sweet Academy, whatever it is for you, whatever you need, that's what we're gonna get to the bottom of. So book a call. I'll put that in the description below. And I also have an outline showing you a step-by-step process, how you can take your own fluency under control and become more fluent just with what you have available at your disposal. But thank you for joining me. Thank you for watching. Keep teaching, keep learning. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.